Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. When a person is at the Grim Reaper, drinking makes them stronger. White Knight travels through the world of death. At the beginning, enter the Zhenyang Lingshu Academy. At this moment, there are still 100 years left until the start of the main storyline. Forcing Wang Aizen, Youhabakh, Heizaki Ichigo, Yamamoto Laozi, and the head of the army, Ichigo. These hanging threats are all sharp blades hanging from his head. The world of the jungle. Without strength, one can only be slaughtered by others. Fortunately, he awakens his system. As long as he drinks, he can become infinitely stronger. You have a hangover for 3 days and 3 nights, and the soul-slaying blade will self-destruct. You drink heavily in battle, and the ghost path breaks through its limits, obtaining the ghost path forbidden art. Sealing the sky and seal script. You drank the imported wine from 4 Maple Courtyard Night 1, and your spiritual pressure exceeded the limit of death. You achieved world.class spiritual pressure. So far. Jinglingting, an invincible swordsman appeared carrying a wine gourd and chopping people. Blue dying. White Knight is the person standing in the sky. Yamamoto Motonari. I would like to call him the strongest Grim Reaper. Yuhabah. Sleeping for 1,000 years, born and cut with a sword by Bai Ye. Kurosaki Ichigo. When Shirayama appeared, I knew he was the real panel monster. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001, Drunken Class, with a refreshing breeze brushing against the face. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Spiritual pressure. It is the fundamental power of the Grim Reaper. In the classroom. A person wearing a black death suit. The man with a huge and sharp soul-cutting sword slung around his waist knocked on the blackboard with a haughty tone. Below. Countless students wrapped it in their longing gaze. This is the official of the 11th team, Lord Ichino's Masamune. Fortunately, I was admitted to the Zhenyang Lingshu Academy. Otherwise, how could I have had the opportunity to interact with such a big shot? Zhenyang Lingshu Academy. Created by the strongest Grim Reaper of 1,000 years, Yamamoto Motonari Shigekuni. It is also the most prestigious academy in the soul of the dead world. Shouldering the function of transporting talents for official organizations such as the 13th Guard Team, the Secret Mobile Team, and the Ghost Road Society even. Occasionally, there will be officials from the 13th Guard Team, even team leaders, who come to make guest appearances as teachers, directly improving their education level. It can be said. Just enter the college. It's like stepping into the official organization's door with just one foot, ensuring worry-free food and clothing. Especially for students from Luhun Street, they are rubbing their hands and their eyes are shining. Compared to the lack of appetite in Luhun Street, staying in Jingling Court is the right choice. However, at this moment, dun dun dun. In a serious classroom, an untimely voice rang out. Everyone turned their heads to look. Only see. A handsome young man with broken black hair was drinking happily with a bottle of baijiu in his hand. His body was shaky, with a hint of drunken redness on his face. White Knight. Everyone helplessly supported their forehead. This is in the classroom. However, they had a habitual expression. It seems like I've seen no strange things for a long time. White Knight. The full name is Mao Zhihua Bai Ye. He is the captain of the 13th and 4th teams of the Court Protection Team, and the younger brother of Mao Zhihua Lai. You should know. The 13 guardians of the court, each captain, is a top-notch fighter in the soul realm, with a status no less than that of a noble. An unattainable character. And as her younger brother. Drinking alcohol in the classroom is also very reasonable, isn't it? However, unfortunately, his talent. The eyes of the crowd, full of envy and jealousy, reflected on Bai Ye. Originally. Half a year ago. Bai Ye and Shirayama Yin, Rottenwood Bai Zai, both enrolled at the same time. The astonishing spiritual pressure of the three even alarmed the lord of Yamamoto Motonari Shigekuni. Known as the three top-tier freshmen. The power of the Grim Reaper is divided into 20 levels. Below 6th grade, they are all ordinary Grim Reapers, with no difference in combat power in the eyes of those top powerhouses. They are all characters who die one blow at a time. The 6th level Lingwei is at the rank of Shiguan, and can serve as a Shiguan in the 13 guards of the court. 4th class and 5th class Lingwei are vice captain level. 3rd class and above Lingwei are all captain level. Legend has it that the captain of the 13th guard team, the strongest Grim Reaper of 1,000 years, and the lord of Yamamoto Motonari Yoshitaka, is a first-class spiritual power. Suppressed the entire Jingling court. And the three of Bai Ye. At a young age, newly enrolled Lingwei students are all 6th class, with a rank of official. Without any accidents, I will definitely become a captain-level figure in the future. The future is infinitely bright. I don't know why. Since entering school, Bai Ye has become obsessed with things in the cup and neglected his cultivation. Even in the classroom, everyone looks drunk. If you haven't practiced for half a year, you probably won't be able to improve your strength. Immediately, we are about to fall out of the ranks of the three top-tier freshmen. If only his talent could be placed on us, how good would it be? Everyone sighed. At the same time, looking at the classroom, the other two figures were like stars and moons. Shirayama Yin, who squinted her eyes and always had a mysterious smile at the corner of her mouth. Face him. There is a suffocating feeling of being watched by a cold and venomous snake, entangled like a python. Even though the sound of drinking could be heard incessantly, Shirayama Yin's expression remained unchanged. Another person. He wears a star clip on his head and has a handsome face. A serious gaze turned towards Bai Ye, revealing a hint of coldness. The icy feeling made the students around shiver and quietly moved away from the decaying wood. Watching Bai Ye at the same time, he gently shook his head. You should know. Rotten wood is white. But the heir of the decaying wood family. I take it as my responsibility to maintain the rules of the corpse soul realm, and I detest people like Bai Ye who disregard the rules and do as I please. If Bai Ye's sister is not Mao Zhihua Lai based on his performance, there is a possibility of being fired directly. Except for these three people. Others Matsumoto Chaoju. Monkey persimmons live in the world. Yakumaru Lisa enrollment in Lingwei is above 10th grade. Can be considered as the best among peers. However, there is still a huge gap between them and the three top-tier freshmen. White Knight. Put down the wine. Above. Wearing a black death suit. One of the most eye-catching characters behind it, 11, is the true tree of Ichinos. Looking at Bai Ye below, his eyebrows furrowed and he tightly grasped the handle of the soul-slaying blade in his hand. As the official of the 11th team. Where have you gone, not because everyone admires you and your status is high. But. This White Knight. How dare you provoke his dignity so much? Master Zhenshu is angry, Bai Ye is going to suffer. Even if his sister is the captain of the 4th team, she has no authority over the seating officers of the 11th team. Below. The crowd's gaze was fixed on the bodies of Shirayoshi and Ichino's Maki, their eyes filled with gossip and a lively expression. One of the three top freshmen versus the 8th seed of the 11th team. There's a good show to watch. Now go to the training ground and stand until night. Ichino's Makoto spoke in a low voice, lightly stroking the soul-slaying blade and unquestionably speaking. The dignity of the official. Different provocations. The words have just finished. A mountain-like heavy spiritual pressure swept out and spread throughout the entire classroom. Suppress everyone. Except for Bai Zai, there are a few people such as Shirayama Yin. The other students, under this pressure, seemed to be choked and their faces turned red, and their bodies could not move a single bit. 5th class spiritual power. Everyone's pupils contract. This is already a lieutenant-level spiritual pressure. Undoubtedly, the 11th team is the most skilled in combat. 5th class Ling Wei. I am already at the vice-captain level. And in the 11th team, I can only serve as the 8th seat. The atmosphere in the classroom is extremely solemn, and needles can be heard falling. You should know. Zhenyang Lingshu Academy does not have a school rule prohibiting drinking in the classroom. Drinking alcohol at night does not disrupt classroom order, at best it can only be said to be lazy, wasting one's talents in vain. And let him stand at the training ground until it gets dark tomorrow. Jingling Court is well known to everyone. One of the 3 top freshmen, the younger brother of Mao Zhihua Bai Ye, was held by the official of the 11th team. This is rubbing the dignity of Bai Ye and his sister Mao Zhihua on the ground. However, the true tree of Ichigo's vice-captain level combat power clearly qualifies for doing so. Wearing a school uniform, with a bespectacled appearance, she was addicted to the handsome and irresistible Yakumaru Lisa, and suddenly came to her senses. With orange wavy hair and a curvaceous figure, Matsumoto Rikuki's eyes widened as she was about to burst out on her chest. Shimaru Yin still squinted her eyes, with a familiar smile on her lips. Rottenwood Bai Zai just let out a cold snort. In the classroom, everyone's gaze was fixed on the bodies of Shirayoshi and Ichigo's Maki, looking back and forth in a solemn atmosphere. 5th class spiritual power. Haran is like a mountain, surging and surging, capable of easily suppressing all new life. Everyone was panting heavily, with big drops of cold sweat streaming down their foreheads. However, sitting by the window, Bai Ye's face remained unchanged. Even if the true tree of Ichigo's is overpowered and fully opened, it's just a gentle breeze brushing his face, and he can't even shift his gaze. He just gently shook the bottle and drank the last sip of the wine. Then he nodded in satisfaction, as if savoring the sweetness of the wine. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 002, now, let you know why I am arrogant. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding drinking makes the system stronger, dedicated to serving you. You drink alcohol in the classroom and improve your level of free play, you drink without distractions, and your level of free combat has greatly improved. Your free fight has been promoted to captain level in the air. The aroma of wine fills the nose. In Bai Ye's mind, the mechanical sound system starts. Subsequently, his mouth curved slightly. Captain level free fight. In the realm of corpses and souls, it can also be considered high-end combat power. You should know. Although the battles of the Grim Reaper mostly rely on spiritual pressure. But, except for spiritual pressure, death also has its own power system. Slash fist goes away. Slash. Swordsmanship. Fist. Bai De, close combat. Walk. A skill that moves the body quickly and instantly. Ghost. Ghost Way refers to the death god singing, transforming spiritual power into various forms, and launching attacks on enemies. Among them, any team that wants to be promoted to captain level not only requires effort, but also talent. Even in the 13 guards of the court, Fengyiela Shirlang, Pingzhi and other captains, although their comprehensive strength is sufficient to be competent as captains. But they only have excellent swordsmanship skills, and the power of the soul-slaying blade is amazing. They really need close combat, and can't even defeat some vice-captains who specialize in white combat and instant steps. As for the college rotten wood and white, Shimaru Yin is just a rising star, and there is still a big gap between him and those long famous captains. And myself. Just drinking alcohol is worth hundreds of years of hard work for others. In the classroom. The atmosphere was extremely solemn, with swords and crossbows drawn. Everyone's gaze is focused on Bai Ye. The true tree of Ichinos, with its eyes slightly fixed and its whole body filled with overwhelming spiritual pressure, stared fixedly at the White Knight. The dignity of the official. No provocation allowed. Today. We must let Bai Ye know and ignore his consequences. White Knight. A refugee is a refugee, even if adopted by Lord Mao Zhihua, it cannot change the essence of your background in the flowing soul street. Above. Ichinos Maki looked at the unmoved White Knight, his mouth twitching slightly, and his face turned black like the bottom of a pot. The disregard of Bai Ye. Let his official's authority shatter the ground. Until now. Only by ruthlessly suppressing it can we not fall into the power of the 11th team. Subsequently. His spiritual pressure surged, and a great sense of oppression approached towards the White Knight. The desks and chairs in the classroom are all trembling with a creaking sound. And he himself is full of spiritual power. Today. I want you to know that your strength doesn't match your arrogance. The eyes of the Ichino's true tree were cold, and a silhouette was drawn in the air from its body. Rush towards the White Knight at a speed that is difficult to capture with the naked eye. Damn it. Lord Shinshu, surprisingly, he personally took action. This is the official of the 11th team, the deputy captain level combat power. Everyone present. Under the immense spiritual power, his face turned pale, leaving large drops of cold sweat on his forehead. Although Bai Ye remained unmoved by the spiritual power of the Ichino's true tree, but he was a 6th-class spiritual power when he enrolled. Ranked among the 3 top-tier freshmen. Just one step away, it's the vice-captain level. Even if abandoned for half a year, indulging in fine wine. But a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Resisting the spiritual power of the real tree is also understandable. However, Ichino's Maki, who is an 8-seat member of the 11th team, has already reached the level of vice-captain in real strength. The current White Knight cannot be an opponent of the 5th-level spiritual power that can be unlocked by the soul-slaying blade, as it is the opponent of the Ichino's true tree seat official. Bai Ye was miserable, and now his face has been ruined. Even Lord Mao Zhihua Lai will be affected. In the classroom. Everyone couldn't help but silently mourn for the White Knight. Matsumoto Chaoju, Yakumaru Lisa clenched her fists tightly and stared nervously at Bai Ye. Shimaru In still squinted her eyes and had a smile on her face. And the rotten wood was white, just squinting his eyes and slightly curling the corner of his mouth. This kind of rule-breaking existence, and also due to various coincidences, the common people of Luhun Street who were adopted by Mao Zhihua Lai, should be punished as they deserve. The next moment, boom. Accompanied by the cracking sound of bones, a figure rose into the air, spewing out blood splatters from the sky. The figure retreating rapidly, even causing a piercing sonic boom in the air. Accompanied by a loud bang, fiercely embedded on the wall. And a path that is even more vast, like a mountain facing the sky, and as if the raging spiritual power of the vast sea roars up into the air. Crazy, spreading in all directions. Even rushing out of the classroom. The entire Zhenyang Spirit Art Academy can feel the violent fluctuations. 4th class Lingwei. Vice Captain level. It's strange that no Vice Captain level teacher came to class today. Countless people looked up in astonishment. Look in the direction of the classroom. That's the source of berserk spiritual pressure. At this moment. In the classroom. Bai Ye shook her wrist and slowly stood up. His expression was lazy, and he still had a drunken blush on his face. Now, let you know why I am arrogant. Bai Ye casually looked at the Ichino's tree embedded in the wall, covered in bloodstains. The 11th team has 8 seats. Lingwei with the rank of vice captain. And his soul-slaying sword. Hongxiao. After initiation, it can use the reflection of light to form illusions, making enemies unable to see itself. It's equivalent to wearing an invisibility cloak, a disgusting ability. However, compared to top-level soul-slaying swords such as Flowing Blade and Mirror Flower Water Moon, they appear ordinary and unremarkable. In the original work, this person was dissatisfied with his boss, and Ghost Yen City Sword 8 was replaced by Gingmu's Sword 8, so he defected from the corpse soul realm and became a safe 2 or 5 child. This is in the field. Everyone else widened their eyes, and their horrified gaze focused on Bai Ye. The even more violent and fierce spiritual pressure than one of the true trees of the Setos made their breathing somewhat difficult. Breathing heavily in the mouth. A cold sweat flowed down my forehead, as if I couldn't bear the pressure of this powerful spiritual pressure. What is the situation? They didn't read it wrong, did they? In the 8th seat of the 11th team, with the deputy captain's spiritual pressure, Ichino's Maki was so vulnerable under the command of Shirayama. It's completely the extent of being instantly killed. Shimaru Yin's smile froze on his face, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Matsumoto Chaoju, Yakumaru Lisa, Yuki Rashiri, and others were all stunned as they watched the unscathed White Knight in the field. And not far away, embedded in the wall, with a soft drooping left arm and an incredibly weak breath, is the true tree of Ichino's. White Knight surprisingly withstood the attack of the real tree. And, look at its spiritual power, its 4th class. This is the level of the vice captain. And, it's an elite vice captain. Once he breaks through the 3rd class spiritual power, it will be a genuine captain-level combat power. In the entire Jingling court, one can be considered a strong opponent. White Knight. Half a year ago, wasn't he a 6th class Lingwei? In just 6 months' time, it has unexpectedly broken through to 4th class. What a talent. You should know that he has been addicted to drinking every day for the past 6 months and has not practiced anything. In the field, everyone was discussing, and the classroom was filled with noise. Countless gazes gathered on Bai Ye's body. In the past, with the performance of Bai Ye, it is simply not worthy of the titles of the 3 top-tier freshmen. Even a week later, during the semi-annual test at the Zhenyang Lingshu Academy, no one was optimistic about Bai Ye. After all, in the test, excellent performance, able to graduate early, and even directly serve as an official in the 13th guard team. What is Bai Ye, who has been drinking for half a year, competing with rotten wood and meatball silver? And now, with his own strength, Bai Ye has struck a heavy hammer in the hearts of everyone. 4th class Lingwei. It has surpassed all new students, even the elderly. Even the rotten wood is white, and the spiritual pressure of Shimaru Yin when he entered school is only 6th grade. In the past 6 months, it has risen to 5th grade at most. And the White Knight. It's the Zhenyang Spiritual Art Academy, the first true spiritual pressure person. 003, practice. There's no way to cheat so quickly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the classroom. Respect, envy, fear, various gazes gathered on Bai Ye's body, filled with the voices of classmates discussing. However, Bai Ye still had a calm expression. His face still had a rosy complexion after drinking. All these things could not stir any waves in his heart. It has been 18 years since I crossed from the blue star to the world of death. Death anime it also accompanied my childhood in the past life. He is familiar with all the plot. I naturally understand that the water in this world is unfathomable. It's just the soul realm. There is the strongest god of death for 1,000 years, Yamamoto Motonari Yoshitaka. Representing the limit of spiritual pressure, Sosuke Aizen wants to subvert this world. And the Zero team hidden in a different space, the most ancient and powerful death god's main unit, the One Soldier Guard. There is also the omniscient and omnipotent Yuhabah who lurks in the shadows, creating an invisible empire with one hand. Moreover, except for the realm of corpses and souls, there is also the present world, the void circle, and the most mysterious hell. And living in the tranquil courtyard. Ordinary people lack strength, and in the event of the Blue Dye Rebellion and the invasion of the Invisible Empire in the future, they can only lead their necks to slaughter. Although Bai Ye has a good talent and can rival the top captain of the future, such as Shimaru In and Kuki Bai Zai. However, there is still a considerable gap between the existence of abnormal levels such as Kurosaki Ichigo, Youhabakh, Genki Kenba, and Aizen. If you really want to fight between life and death, you must die for yourself. Now, only 100 years away from the start of the main line. For 100 years, if one practices step by step, they cannot compete with those perverts. Fortunately, I have good luck. Not long after crossing the river, he was adopted by Mao Zhihua Lai and hugged the thigh of this first-generation sword 8. And half a year ago, he awakened the system. Drinking makes you stronger. There is no upper limit. As long as you drink, you can become infinitely stronger. That's right. It's just so simple and rough. System panel. Bai Ye's heart twitched. A semi-transparent panel that only he himself could see appeared before his eyes. Host. Mao Zhihua Bai Ye, Lingwei. 4th class, 80%, Kendo. Vice Captain level. By the Captain level. Instantly. Vice Captain level. Ghost Road. Master all the top 50, perfect mastery of the top 30, release without chanting. And your power will not decrease. Half a year ago. The strength of Bai Ye is only at the level of an official. There is a significant gap in various abilities compared to the vice captain. But now, just drinking alcohol, my overall strength has reached the level of vice captain. And Bai-De is even more at the captain level. Even. Lingwei has also reached 4th class and is about to break through to 3rd class. The distance from the captain level spiritual pressure is only one step away. Haha. Practice. There's no way to cheat so quickly. In the classroom, you can smell the needle falling. Under the gaze of everyone, Bai Ye ignored the Ichino's tree embedded in the wall. Just came to Matsumoto Rikuki and extended his palm. Meanwhile, Matsumoto Rikuki understood and quietly handed the wine jug hidden in the desk to Bai Ye. I was really deceived. Matsumoto Chaoju's eyes were gloomy, staring closely at Bai Ye, her chest rising and falling, looking extremely spectacular. You should know. She and Bai Ye both have a passion for drinking, and they have a close relationship with each other on weekdays. They often drink in the dimly lit tavern, competing their tolerance for alcohol. However, every time the chaotic chrysanthemums are defeated, Bai Ye's alcohol tolerance is like a bottomless pit, with no limit at all. As for cultivation, Bai Ye always has a nonchalant and useless attitude, and Matsumoto Chaoju truly believes in his evil deeds. Follow him to mess it up together. Unexpectedly, Bai Ye quietly broke through the 4th class spiritual power. What was agreed upon is to be treated as waste together. Why do you secretly roll behind my back? Sad. Matsumoto Chaoju was about to cry, her chest trembling. The scene is extremely spectacular. Seems to be accusing the behavior of the scumbag at White Night. Dun dun dun. Faced with the criticism from Matsumoto Rikuki, Bai Ye just pulled out the bottle cap and took a sip. The picturesque face, reflected in the sunlight, appeared incredibly graceful, attracting the attention of many girls in the classroom. Just appearance. It's on par with rotten wood and white. But that lazy and carefree temperament is far superior to the rotten wood and white one who always wears a stiff face. This also leads to Bai Ye is extremely popular at the Zhenyang Lingshu Academy. Ranked first in the Most Wanted Man for Girls to Marry selection. Far ahead. Gudong. Yakumaru Lisa swallowed a mouthful of water, her flushed face as if an apple was crispy and delicious. She, who is addicted to various comics and not suitable for children to read, has never experienced such temptation. Matsumoto's words also choked up in her throat, her fingers gently wrapped around her orange hair, watching Bai Ye drink quietly, and her dissatisfaction dissipated. The beauty of Bai Ye is enough to solve most problems between men and women. Secretly rolling behind her back. It doesn't matter at all. Dingyu drank heavily in the battle against the Ichino's true tree, enhancing your spiritual power, your Lingwei. 4th class, 85%, not bad. The progress of the 4th class Lingwei has reached 85%. The distance is 3rd class, and the captain level is not far behind. Bai Ye nodded in satisfaction. Taking the last sip of wine casually, he handed the empty wine jug to Wan Ju under her melancholic gaze. After drinking alcohol, Bai Ye looked casually at the slender and fruitful beauty in front of her. Half a year ago. After awakening his own system, he wandered around the tavern all day and became good friends with Matsumoto Rikuki, who also enjoyed drinking. On weekdays, there are also many exchanges. Matsumoto Chaoju. A head of orange long hair, and a chest full of desire, extremely hot. A seductive beauty exuding a mature adult aura, with a bold and straightforward personality, not bound by details. In the original work, she is the vice captain of the future 10th team and a director of the Women's Reaper Association. The soul-slaying blade gray cat can transform into a group of smoke gray after being unlocked. As long as it is a place touched by smoke, it can be cut by waving the handle, making it difficult to defend against. And she has a part of the Spirit King in her body, which has led to her innate talent since childhood. However, now, in the flowing Soul Street, she has been taken away by Aizen from the fingertips of the Spirit King, resulting in a significant decline in her potential, and the soul-slaying blade is only at the level of initial understanding. Afterwards, no solution was achieved. Fortunately, after being taken away from the fingertips, it only affects combat effectiveness. It has little impact on Matsumoto's physical health, and he can drink alcohol every day. I finished drinking again, and I knew. Matsumoto Chaoju helplessly supported her forehead and shook the empty wine jug. As long as you give the wine to Bai Ye, it will be finished in no time. However, looking at Bai Ye's handsome face, Matsumoto Chaoju's heart skipped a beat again. Now, she just realized it. Bai Ye used his own wine pot. Isn't that indirect? Thinking of this, Matsumoto Chaoju's cheeks turned slightly red. She, who was originally quite generous, gently pinched the corners of her clothes with both hands like a little woman. 004, the so-called power describes this kind of thing. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Damn it. At a time when Matsumoto Chaoju's mind was complex. Above the wall, beneath the cracks in the human form, a roar could be heard. Accompanied by the sound of rustling, Ichino's Makoto was covered in bloodstains and looked extremely miserable. He stood up unsteadily. At the same time, his left arm was soft and drooping, looking like his bones were shattered. A cold, fearful gaze turned towards the lazy and drunken white knight in the classroom. Just now, he didn't even see Bai Ye's movements clearly, so he was instantly hit and seriously injured. And, the spiritual power of Bai Ye surprisingly broke through to 4th class. Even taller than him. White Knight, isn't it a waste cultivator who is about to drop out 3 new super-level students? As the 8th seed of the 11th team, he was heavily relied upon by Captain Guo Yen City Sword. When did he suffer such shame? Shame. Not willing. The eyes of the true tree of Ichinos are covered in bloodstains. Only by completely defeating Bai Ye can he wash away his shame just now. First solution. Shine, Hongxia. with his hysterical roar. In the classroom. Suddenly, a dazzling light flashed. Everywhere is twisted and dazzling light and shadow. A towering spiritual power rises from the sky. Surprisingly no less than the White Knight. This is Shiji. You know, Shiji can increase a person's spiritual pressure several times. This is also a necessary condition to become a magistrate. The crowd was horrified. It seems that Ichino's Shinshu, you're really angry. He actually initiated the initial solution. Matsumoto Chaoju, Yakumaru Lisa, and others quietly clenched their fists, and their tense eyes focused on Shirakaki. According to rumors, the first solution to the true tree of Ichinos is very simple. As long as the spiritual pressure covers it, it can be easily cracked. However, now, after the initial release increased the spiritual pressure several times. The spiritual pressure difference between the Ichino's true tree and the White Knight has greatly shortened, and can even be ignored. The outcome of this battle is still unknown. Radiant glow, rainbow glow. Ichino's Maki shouted loudly. The distortion of light and shadow in the air made the entire human body disappear, making it impossible for the naked eye to observe any situation. The rosy glow shines, the shattered jade is a rainbow glow. In the air, a deep voice came from. The spiritual pressure in the field is instantly manic and extremely irritable. The dazzling light permeated the entire classroom. This is the burst of one's own spiritual pressure, shining with light. It can greatly improve one's speed and strength. The raging spiritual pressure rushes towards the White Knight in anger. The air is howling with a piercing wind. What? The teacher is actually fighting against Bai Ye. And Bai Ye has already forced him out of the solution. Outside the classroom. Zhenyang Lingshu Academy. Due to the strong spiritual pressure just now, the gathered teachers and students were all staring intently at what was happening in the classroom, their eyes contracting violently. The field was a vast and bustling scene, with a surge of people and dark figures everywhere. The matter has come to an end. They naturally understood that the spiritual pressure just now came from Bai Ye. White Knight. Isn't that a drunken man who only knows how to drink? When did you have such a powerful power? However, that's all for now. The difference in spiritual pressure between the two is almost the same now, and the only thing that determines the outcome is the /fist and go ghost. And Bai Ye is just a newcomer. In terms of combat experience, how can he compare to the 8th seed of the 11th team, Lord Ichizuki Setsuki? Outside the classroom. Everyone shook their heads and let out a soft sigh. As for Shiji, there has never been a rumor before that Bai Ye used the soul-slaying blade. As for his ability to wield the soul-slaying blade, it is naturally a mystery and not within the scope of everyone's consideration. However, in the classroom, the White Knight still has a lazy expression, with light clouds and gentle breeze. Even if Ichino's Makoto puts in all his effort, he cannot frown at all. The spiritual pressure in the air is manic, mixed with dazzling light, and the powerful momentum is coming towards White Knight. Everyone. I can't even see the figure of Ichino's Masahiro. Equivalent to completely disappearing from the entire classroom. Now, I'll let you know the power gap between you and me. An invisible roar came from the air. The true tree spirit of Ichino's suddenly surged and became extremely violent. At the same time, the cold and piercing blade fiercely locked Bai Ye in. The next moment, boom. Bai Ye's figure instantly disappeared and appeared in front of an open space. The body movements are smooth and natural, as if natural, and the use of power is also superb. A sharp thrust from the palm of a jade-like stone towards the front. The naked eye cannot detect it at all. The air seems to have become turbulent, with invisible waves spreading wildly in all directions. Pushi. A shower of blood splatters. Like a rainbow condensed with blood. Originally, on the empty ground, a humanoid figure stained with blood appeared. The pupils of Shinshu Ichigo's contracted violently, and the rainbow cloud in his hand jingled and fell weakly to the ground. Bang, in the classroom. The sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. The body of Ichigo's Masamune twitched violently below, and her spiritual pressure became incredibly weak, almost imperceptible. And the White Knight, still looking lazy, as if casually patting a mosquito. Shaking his wrist, the bloodstains on his hand disappeared in an instant, becoming warm and jade-like again. Looking at the quiet Ichigo's tree on the ground. The White Knight speaks softly. With a lazy casualness. The so-called power. Describing this kind of thing. He clenched his fist. Captain-level free combat. It also greatly strengthened Bai Ye's physique. For a vice-captain level opponent who is incredibly mediocre in all aspects, it is a safe blow to reduce the dimensionality. The true tree of Ichigo's is just a sitting official, and its strength is not much different from that of deputy captains such as Nakagui Satsumi, Yoshitaka Izuki, and Kusaku Yakuchiu in the original work. Solving him doesn't require any trouble at all. And Ichigo's Maki, with complex expressions of unwillingness, fear, etc., scrutinized Bai Ye's body. His lock has been destroyed. All the spiritual pressure has dissipated, and I can no longer serve as the god of death in the future. It can be said that my entire body has been destroyed. The piercing pain that burns his heart and bones makes him unable to make any sound. That kind of power, he has only seen it in his own captain. White Knight. In a certain aspect, we can already stand shoulder to shoulder with the captain-level powerhouse. The next moment, he vomited blood from his mouth, his eyes turned white, and he fainted directly. Master Zhinshu, surprisingly defeated. Bai Ye didn't even use the soul-slaying blade, he just used the most basic, Bai-De, to defeat the official. In the classroom. Suddenly, there was a commotion. Everyone was stunned, their mouths wide open, and their eyes filled with disbelief. Yakumaru Lisa, Matsumoto Chaoju is as stiff as a wooden chicken. Shimaru Yin's smile disappeared from the corners of her mouth, she just rubbed her eyes. As for the decaying wood, Bai Zai's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and his gaze at Bai Ye was full of solemnity. Captain-level free fight. As a nobleman. His knowledge is naturally different from that of ordinary people. The flawless use of power and flowing fighting skills only team leader level free combat can achieve such results. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 005, just a treatment team. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Heard this statement. Everyone present took a deep breath. Captain level. Surprisingly at the captain level. You should know that even some of the current captains of the 13th Hokaku team have not reached the captain level in free play. This White Knight, I only attended school for half a year, and I still drink all day. What kind of monster is he? Difficulty cannot be achieved. He keeps drinking, just a smoke bomb. In fact, I have been secretly scrolling behind everyone's back. Although this White Knight comes from flowing Soul Street. But he himself is very talented. Even though abandoned for half a year, now he still stands at the pinnacle of all new life. Outside the classroom. The dark and overwhelming figures enveloped the entire classroom, making it incredibly lively and boiling. Today, we witness history. In the history of the entire Zhenyang Lingshu Academy, only a few people, such as Jingle Chunshue and Fuju 14, were able to defeat the officials of the 13th Guard team with the funds of rebirth. And in the current Jingle Spring Water, without exception, Fuju Shigeru is the captain of the 13th Guard team, with an extremely high status. This White Knight is really going against the sky. However, will he not be punished for doing such a thing and openly defeating the official? You know, he broke the lock of the Ichino's true tree. It's equivalent to directly destroying a promising vice-captain level combat power. Everyone looked at the pitiful Ichino's tree lying on the ground in the classroom, with a big hole below its chest and abdomen, and felt a chill in their hearts. That is the position of the lock. It has been completely destroyed. You should know. Lock not, soul sleep, is the source of death's spiritual power. Any place that is destroyed will lose all spiritual power and all power. If the lock and soul sleep are completely destroyed, then the Grim Reaper will die directly. Outside the classroom. The crowd was discussing wildly, and the scene was incredibly noisy. Although committing such a great event has already violated the school rules, Bai Ye is still a genius beyond the standard. I believe that whether it is the Central 46 room or the 13th Guard team, they will all be lenient. Everyone shook their heads. After all, Bai Ye only broke the lock and did not take the life of the real tree. And Bai Ye's sister is still Mao Zhihua Lai. As the captain of the 4th team, how could my younger brother be punished like an ordinary student? However, it seems like this. A week later, in the semester test, Bai Ye remains one of the most powerful competitors. Everyone's envy, jealousy, and longing gaze gathered on the expressionless young man in the room. 1 week later. It's the semester test at the Zhenyang Lingshu Academy, and those who perform well can even graduate early and directly serve as officials in the 13 guard teams. This is also the only way for countless ordinary Tianjiao, who come from the flowing Soul Street and suffer from hunger and cold, to stand out. In the past, White Knight, who has been drinking alcohol all the time, even though he ranks among the 3 top-tier freshmen, he has little competitiveness in front of Shimaru In and Kuki Baizai. However, now, Bai Ye has proven with his own strength that he is still one of the most brilliant geniuses in the entire college, and even in the entire Jingling court. 1 day later. The entire Jingling court has become boiling. And the name Bai Ye. It also echoed through the streets and alleys. Even some nobles have heard of this young genius who has been silent for half a year and suddenly erupted. After all, Jinglingting, although compared to the luxurious living conditions of Luhun Street, is truly lacking in entertainment. Any wind or grass disturbance will become a topic of discussion for people after tea and dinner. Defeat the official, what a talent. A few hundred years ago, there was a spring water scene in Beijing, and 14 young men of floating bamboo defeated officials with their talent as students. And hundreds of years later, there will be a White Knight. Everyone is discussing wildly. And the Shiguan defeated by Bai Ye came from the strongest 11th team. No accidents. Among the 13 future captains, there must be the name Bai Ye. I just don't know which team he will be the captain of. 13 teams protecting the court. A vast expanse of plain white mixed with light gray, covering an extremely vast area. Among them, it contains countless powerful spiritual pressures. Like a sleeping beast, the Pangran spirit seemed to be tearing apart the heavens and the earth. This is the strongest combat power in the Corp's Soul realm except for the Zero team. It is also the strongest Grim Reaper of 1,000 years, created by Yamamoto Motonari Shigekuni, a violent organization that maintains peace in the entire Corp's Soul realm. At this moment, on the open ground, a man with a rugged appearance and a huge soul-slaying sword pinned to his waist frowned tightly. Behind the feather weaving, symbolizing the captain, there is the word 11. Looking at the half-dead and still in a coma in front of Ichino's Maki. The atmosphere in the entire venue is incredibly solemn. At the same time, there were also a large number of figures who came to watch the excitement, including an old man dressed in a seductive pink captain named Yuji, with a weathered face, holding a straw in his mouth and looking like a salted fish. There is also a big, 9 character behind it. Not far away, there was also a man with brown hair, square glasses, and a gentle smile always hanging from the corner of his mouth, staring at everything in front of him. Blue Dai Sosuke. In front of him is the captain of the 5th team, Mako Hirako. Captain Guiyan City, Lord Jinshu was defeated by Bai Ye and his lock was destroyed. There is no possibility of fighting again in his lifetime. On the side. The team member in charge of treatment let out a light sigh and shook their head slowly. White Knight. The ghost Yen City sword Ba with a rough face gritted his teeth tightly, and veins burst out on his forehead. The spiritual pressure around me surged like a fierce beast, filled with a destructive aura. Officer Shi, defeated by the local students. 11 team, when did you suffer such shame? Captain Guiyan City, that's the younger brother of Captain Mao Jihua, said Matsuko Hirako gently, pouring cold water into everyone's hearts. And the 46 rooms of the Central Committee, as well as the captain of Yunluzi, selectively ignored this matter. I believe they were shocked by the talent of Bai Ye, so they won't pursue it. After all, no one will sympathize with the loser, only care about who is the ultimate winner. Hirako Mako continued. Ha, just a treatment team. Ghost Yen City Sword Ba grinned ferociously and firmly pressed the handle of the soul-slaying blade. 13 teams protecting the court. Captain, there is also a distinction between strength and weakness. 13 captains. Jingle Chunshue, Fuju Shishiro, and the contemporary Sword 8 Ghosts Yenching Sword 8 are particularly eye-catching, known as the strongest team captains. And others, on the other hand, are at the next level, especially Mao Jihua Lai, who is just the captain of the healing team, and his performance in the past century is even more unknown. Only at that time, when Bai Ye was adopted from the flowing Soul Street, did it cause some waves. On the side. Holding a straw in his mouth, Jingle Spring Water, with a face full of salted fish, gently shook his head with a complex expression. He is a frequent guest at the tavern. Nature and White Knight are also a relationship between wine lovers, and the two often make plans to drink. I didn't expect it. The White Knight, who always looks lazy and has an amazing alcohol tolerance, is so talented that he has accomplished such a feat. P.S. New book seedlings, please have flowers and reviews from all the experts. It would be even better if you had a monthly pass. 006, The Strongest Wind and Snow Series Soul Slaying Sword. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. At the same time. Just a treatment team. The spring water in Jingle murmurs softly, and the corners of the mouth twitch slightly. Those who become team leaders within 100 years, such as Hirako Masako and Guiyan City Sword Ba, may overlook Mao Jihua Lai. And he. As one of the most experienced team captains, I have naturally experienced the era dominated by the flower of Mao, who was known as the strongest and most evil villain in the Corpse Soul realm and the first generation of Sword 8. Although, I don't know why, hundreds of years ago, after a serious injury, Mao Jihua Lai stepped down from his position as the first generation Sword 8 and took on the role of the inconspicuous captain of the 4th Division. Even the initial solution of the soul-slaying blade has become a therapeutic function, however, if anyone dares to underestimate her. Especially targeting her precious family members, his I dare not think. But what does all of this have to do with oneself? Jingle Chunshue had a salty fish on his face, covered his hat on his head, and fell asleep. Can he not participate in the struggles of Jinglingting, and not just touch the fish and lie dead every day? If someone wants to die, he cannot stop them. At this moment. Jingling Court. In a spacious courtyard. From there came a fragrant aroma of wine, and the sound of pause could not be stopped. In front of the desk. A handsome young man with jet black hair and a handsome appearance gently shook his glass, his face still tinged with drunkenness, and he was drinking happily at the moment. However. The next moment. White Knight. Drink and drink. With so much alcohol, your brain will be ruined. A slightly hoarse female voice sounded. Whoosh. Blank space. A gentle breeze brushed past. A black-skinned beauty with deep purple hair appeared behind Bai Ye with empty hands, but her pupils slightly contracted. Within reach of the eye, Bai Ye still had a lazy expression, holding a wine glass and never changing his position from beginning to end. Just now, she has already used the strength of captain-level free fighting, but still couldn't snatch the glass from Bai Ye's hand. And the reaction speed of Bai Ye, not inferior to the other captains in the 13th Guard team. Yi Yi's eyes narrowed slightly, and his amazed gaze scanned Bai Ye's body. It seems that recently, rumors about Bai Ye in the Jingling court are not false. His free fight has reached the captain level. Perhaps in the upcoming college quiz, he was able to surprise people again. Night 1. Bai Ye drank his last sip of wine and casually looked at the black-skinned beauty in front of him. The deep purple hair is scattered, and the agile body is like a female leopard, full of ultimate wild temptation. Beautiful. Mixed with a hint of danger for Maple Courtyard one night. Captain of the second team, Commander-in-Chief of the secret mobile team. He is also one of the 4 nobles in the Corpse Soul Realm, a heavenly gifted armor series, and the current head of the 4 Maple Academy family. Her Bai-De and instantly step talents are extremely outstanding, and she created a move called instantly coaxing that combines the two. In the original work, before the main plot begins, she was involved in the conspiracy of Aizen. In order to save the fictional members of the Cayman army, such as Hirako and Masako, they defected from the Corpse Soul Realm together with Hirahara Kisuke. However now, she is still the captain of the second team. The first heir of the Siphonjaiwan family. Like Mao Zhihua Lai, she played the role of a big sister in the life of Bai Ye. He was also the teacher of Bai-De and Shunbu before awakening his system. Still drinking. Ye looks at the white knight and conjures up a bottle of unopened baijiu. His eyes widen and his teeth crack. Ah, forget it. Yi looked at the lazy white knight and helplessly supported his forehead. She has no choice but to deal with this younger brother. Even after saying it millions of times, Bai Ye still refused to put down his glass and instead drank more and more. Now, let's get down to business first. Thinking of this, Yi looked at Bai Ye with some solemnity. Recently, the flowing Soul Street often experiences the disappearance of the Grim Reaper, and there are also many strange illusions. Mao Zhihua is still busy with things related to the 4th team, you need to pay more attention. When it comes to Soul Street, the expression becomes noticeably serious. However, Bai Ye just waved his hand. His face remained unchanged, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Flowing Soul Street. Death disappears. It seems that Blue Dai Sosuke, in order to break the boundary between emptiness and death, and to break through the limits of death. His virtualization experiment has now begun. And those disappearing gods of death. It's just an experimental sample of blue dying. However, Bai Ye shook her head. What does all of this have to do with herself? I am currently not at the captain level and still studying at the Zhenyang Lingshu Academy, so I won't be noticed by Aizen at all. And the illusions of Aizen are at best just team leader level strength, with low rationality. Even if the 9th team captain's 6 chariots fist west is weakened, any captain can solve it with a swastika. In the courtyard, Bai Ye gently shook his glass, looking lazy and contemplating. Blue Dai Sosuke. In his past life, he was regarded as the most successful antagonist character in the anime industry, and his one-handed hairspray remover established his reputation as a king. And he is not a pure villain, he also has his own beliefs in his heart. Everything is to resist the rule of the Spirit King and build his ideal world. Besides, is the existence of Aizen itself a bad thing for the Soul Realm? You should know. The current Corpse Soul Realm, although it looks peaceful, but the inner world has become extremely corrupt. The rigid central 46 room is in charge of everything, and no orders are allowed to be disobeyed. The death god in flowing Soul Street wants to stand out. Apart from those who are lucky enough to be adopted by powerful death gods like Mao Zhihua Lai, everyone else can only serve as dogs for the nobility, join the 13 guards of the court, or join the ghost sect and the secret mobile team. They are all controlled by the authorities. In the original work, it was also Room 46, which wrongly accused Yashiichi of the 4 maple courtyards, Yosuke Urahara, and the Cayman Legion, leading them to flee to this world, and Aizen's betrayal was a resounding slap to the decaying soul realm. Let the corpse soul realm and the stagnant water pool regain its vitality. Watching Bai Ye lazily drinking alcohol, Ye raised her waist and a small face bulged. The cold and gorgeous beauty of the past, now looks a bit cute. Wait for Mao Zhihua to come back, let her take care of you. Say it. With a flash of his figure, he turned his head and left. Looking at the back of Yi Yi's departure. Continue drinking during the day. The handsome profile looks even more flawless. Ding you drink in front of Yi Yi and make her helpless, reward. Strongest wind and snow soul slaying blade, flowing wind and returning snow. Strongest wind and snow system. Flowing wind and returning snow. The White Knight's eyes sparkled. This reward is not ordinary, it's actually a soul-slaying sword. Still the strongest soul-slaying blade of the Wind and Snow series. You should know. Soul-slaying blade. The strongest title, each one is as piercing as thunder. I have reached the limit of my abilities in a certain aspect. And those who possess them are famous and powerful individuals, or those with extremely terrifying talents. 007, Return to Snow. You are listening at novel.Audio. For example, the strongest fire-type soul-slaying sword of Yamamoto Motonari Yashasada, with a flowing blade like fire. The strongest illusion of Blue Dai Sosuke is the soul-slaying blade, a mirror like water moon. The strongest physics-based soul-slaying sword of Genki Sword 8, Wild Sage. The strongest ice-type soul-slaying sword and ice will pill of the Winter Lion Lang in Rafangu, except for Rafangu Dongshalong, who is too young to have enough combat power. The other 3 of them have already stood at the pinnacle of the world in the plot, with true peak-level combat power. Even the flowing blade of Mr. Yamamoto is like a flame-slaying sword, and the high temperature can destroy the entire world. It can be said to be the most terrifying and destructive soul-slaying blade if so. The battle of the Grim Reaper relies on spiritual pressure. So, when the spiritual pressure is similar, a powerful soul-slaying sword has the ability to overturn the battle situation. And myself, Zheng, Bai Ye looked at the blue color that appeared in his hand, with flowing blue stripes all over it, like a soul-slaying sword in the shape of a Tanghengdao. He nodded in satisfaction. Wind and Snow. Double series soul-slaying swords, and they are all the strongest. Even in the history of the corpse soul realm, it is a unique existence. Even Aizen and Yamamoto's soul-slaying knives are only the strongest in one series, while I am a dual series. And there is a correlation between wind and snow, and they complement each other, which can unleash stronger power. Not to mention, in the corpse soul realm, all the soul-slaying sabers evolved from Shallow Strike, which was created by the second member of the Zero Team, Wang Yu. And my own, Flowing Wind and Returning Snow, is directly rewarded by the system, without the help of Wang Yu, making it more reassuring to use. Not bad. Bai Ye's mouth slightly curled up and nodded in satisfaction. Continue drinking alcohol. Time passes by. Jinglingting, living in the tavern, was a handsome young man with lazy eyes and broken black hair, occasionally pouring wine into his mouth. On the side, there was a young girl with orange hair and a magnificent chest. On the other side, there is a middle-aged man with a scruffy beard, dressed in captain's feather weaving, who looks disheveled. The 3 of them toasted and toasted, from morning until evening. Drinking on your own is boring. And the 3 of them, who were originally drinking friends, although their identities and positions were different, they got along very well and occasionally had gatherings. White Knight, I really can't do it anymore. You kid, drinking alcohol is like a monster. Jingle Chunshui shook his head repeatedly, declined, and his face also collapsed. Suppressed the urge to vomit and gently lower the glass. Although he was already very good at drinking, he didn't expect that this white knight would use wine as water to drink. TSK, the old man just can't do it. My family's Bai Ye is the most powerful. Matsumoto Chaoju's mouth slightly curled up, her face covered in a drunken blush, and she pulled Bai Ye over and hugged him tightly. Bai Ye's entire face was buried in the softness, and he fiercely felt what a true brain cushion wave was. I feel good. The perfect touch that feels like being deeply trapped in clouds, making people feel like they don't want to get up. This white knight is really enviable. Jingle Chun shed tears of envy. Then, he seemed to remember something and looked towards Bai Ye. However, don't just focus on drinking every day, and be careful to order the captain of the 11th team, Ghost Yen City Sword 8. After all, it was his subordinates that you deposed a few days ago, and he has already spoken out to retaliate against you. The sound of Jingle Chunshui is somewhat serious. As a friend, he still has an obligation to remind Bai Ye. What? On the side, Matsumoto Chaoju woke up most of the time, his watery eyes filled with worry. Captain. That's a big shot in the jingling court. Each person in charge is in charge of the entire team, and it can be said that even some middle-level nobles are not as powerful as those captains. Moreover, each captain's combat power is extremely extraordinary, especially Sword 8. It is also known as the strongest among the 13 teams guarding the court. However, Bai Ye's face remained unchanged, and he even continued to take a sip of wine. Ghost Yen City Sword 8. In the original work, the one who was directly defeated and killed by Genki Jinba, who already claimed his own strength. It can be said. The Ghost Yen City Sword 8 is the most shameful and weakest among the 8 swords of all dynasties. Although well known now, he is the contemporary Sword 8 of the 11th team, which is most skilled in combat. However, any veteran team leader such as Mao Jihualai, Jingle Chunshui, and Fuzhou Shishiro can be selected to be countless times stronger than him. And myself. Why be afraid of such a captain-level leader with current strength? Bai Ye, your heart is really big. A few days later, it will be the semester test, and you will also be targeted by a team captain. Matsumoto Chaoju looked at the plain white knight and couldn't help but sigh. As if nothing in the world could trouble him. However, it is precisely this white knight that is full of an indescribable charm. And the white knight? I didn't even raise my eyebrows. Just self-indulgent drinking. Ding, you drink without distractions, ignoring hidden threats, making Matsumoto Rikuki and Kyoko Haruki stand out. Your soul-slaying sword, Hui Shui, has obtained the first solution. Returning snow. The blue pattern on the white knight's soul-slaying blade suddenly brightened up a bit. It seems that the wind and snow style soul-slaying swords, among which the wind and snow styles are separated in terms of their initial and final solutions, as well as their final solutions. Wind system, flowing wind, snow system, returning snow, and between the two systems, they can complement each other and unleash even greater power. Not bad. Bai Ye nodded in satisfaction. As his mind moved. Living outside the tavern. The clear sky suddenly became dark, and in the sky, ice-blue snowflakes drifted down one after another, looking incredibly beautiful. The air also became cold, and even if only a part of the power of the origin was exerted, the celestial phenomena changed instantly in the blink of an eye on the white knight. Is it snowing? It's summer now, how could there be snow? Externally. The passers-by looked at the sky in surprise, and the coldness in the air made their bodies tremble uncontrollably, giving them a feeling that their souls were about to be shattered. Strange. It's really strange. In the tavern, Matsumoto Chaoju looked at the outside sky with a surprised expression. her chest trembling and her body covered in a layer of fine goosebumps. I can only hold on to Bai Ye tightly, longing for that little warmth. This kind of temperature, even she, is somewhat unsustainable. However, fortunately, in an instant, the ice and snow melted, and the dark clouds in the sky gradually dissipated. The temperature returned to normal, with only the ice-blue snowflakes on the ground indicating an extraordinary celestial phenomenon. Bai Ye, this is. Matsumoto Chaoju scratched Bai Ye, but he still had a lazy expression on his face. The vision he had just seen did not catch his attention. On the side, only Jingle Chunshui let out a light sigh, his bearded face filled with a hint of shock, and he looked at Bai Ye in shock. As a veteran captain, naturally, one can perceive that just as the White Knight's soul-slaying blade made a strange movement, the external celestial phenomena were changed. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 008, request from Hu Cheyong Yin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is the soul-slaying blade that can change the celestial phenomena. You should know. Even if Captain Yamamoto's flowing blade is like fire, it is only a scorching temperature and cannot change the celestial phenomena. The entire corpse soul realm. Only the deputy captain of the team, the soul-slaying sword of Nejiro Kurobe, the swastika of Yenling Maru, and the departure of Huang Yenling from the palace, have the ability to change the celestial phenomena. In legend, Kurobe Nejiro, with this move that could change the celestial phenomena, left an indelible scar on the right forehead of the strongest god of death in the millennium. Yamamoto Motonari Yoshitaka one-handed swastika defeated the captain, causing Captain Yamamoto to add the words, Genryu Sai, to his name. It's amazing. It's really amazing. This White Knight is truly going against the sky. Young people nowadays are all too lively. Take a sip of cold air from the spring water in Jingle. However, just now, is it Shiji or swastika? Jingle Chunshui looked at Bai Ye with a question mark, just amazed. If it is a swastika interpretation, at the age of Bai Ye, he will become a swastika interpretation and his future prospects are limitless. But if it is the initial solution, isn't that even more terrifying? It can be called the most powerful monster in the history of the corpse soul realm. Just the initial solution, there is the ability to change the celestial phenomena that is comparable to the solution of Nagara Jiro swastika. Looking at the shocked crowd, Bai Ye just lazily lay in the arms of Matsumoto Chaoju, bored and took a sip of wine. In the original work, there are two soul-slaying swords that can change the celestial phenomena. A handful, it is the Yenling pill of Nejiro Kurobe. The other one is the Ice Will pill of Higashihiro Higashiwagi from Rafangu. However, the current Winter Lion Lang is probably still a child from the flowing Soul Street, who has not obtained the Ice Will pill or unlocked the achievement of First Genius. And the ability to change celestial phenomena can only be achieved through the dissolution of these two soul-slaying swords. And myself, just the initial solution, is comparable to their swastika solution. Bai Ye nodded in satisfaction. Look at your own panel. Host. White Knight, soul-slaying blade. Flowing wind and returning snow, unlocking the beginning release of returning snow, Lingwei. 4th class, 85%, Kendo. Vice Captain level. By the Captain level. Instantly. Vice Captain level. Ghost Road. Master all the top 50, perfect mastery of the top 30, release without chanting. And your power will not decrease. Such panels. Except for Lingwei, who is still lacking, the rest are already comparable to some current captains, such as those with weaker combat capabilities like Lechequan West. And this. It only took half a year in total. The strength gained by other Grim Reapers, even after decades or even centuries of hard work, cannot compare to drinking a few sips of wine casually. At this moment, bang, the door to the tavern was pushed open, and a tall woman with silver short hair and a handsome face walked in. She looked at Bai Ye with a hint of brilliance in her eyes. Bai Ye, you are indeed here. On the side, Matsumoto Chaoju looked at the handsome beauty in front of her with some confusion. I saw that although her chest was not as magnificent as her own, it was also quite sizable. What would such a person do with Bai Ye? Matsumoto Rikuki couldn't help but feel a sense of crisis in her heart, and quickly gave Bai Ye a face wash that envied others. And the spring water of Beijing music. He wrapped his face in a straw hat and lay down like a salted fish. Yong Yin. Bai Ye looked at the heroic woman in front of her and lazily took a sip of wine. Tiger Cheyong Yin. The deputy captain of the 4th team, who is also his sister and a subordinate of Mao Zhihualai. Although tall and handsome, she has a timid and introverted personality, giving people a feeling of shyness. Having a ghost-style soul-slaying sword and frozen cloud, although he has always been a follower of Mao Zhihualai, his strength can also be considered as the deputy captain. And she can also be considered her only opposite-sex friend. White Knight, Captain has an order to send the 4th Division to the 7-7 area for support. However, Captain Mao Zhihua, there is still something important that cannot be left now. The 5th team is currently fighting in Zone 77, but with heavy casualties, we cannot delay any further. Can you come with me to support us? Hu Cheyong Yin's face turned slightly red as she was watched by Jing Luchunchue and others, feeling quite uncomfortable. At the same time, looking in front of him with a hint of amazement, he looked lazily at the White Knight. During this period, the entire Jingling court has been swept away by the White Knight. People all know that Bai Ye is now likely the first genius of the Zhenyang Lingshu Academy, with extraordinary combat power, defeating 8 seats of the 11th team, and possessing a vice-captain level spiritual pressure. She never imagined that Bai Ye, who had always been lazy in drinking, could reach such a level. Originally, Bai Ye is just a student, not within her scope of consideration. But now, if Bai Ye really has such combat power, then having him go to Zone 77 with him would also be much more reassuring. Sister, can't you leave? Bai Ye nodded lazily and held the wine gourd in his hand. Let's go. Walk directly towards the outside of the tavern. The 4th team is my sister's team. If you have difficulties, you still need to help yourself. Bai Ye, is it okay? 77 District, there have been many virtual appearances recently, and there are even rumors of team leader level virtual events. Rear. Matsumoto Chaoju looked at Bai Ye with a hint of concern in her eyes. The recent flowing Soul Street is not peaceful. However, Bai Ye just waved his hand, holding the wine gourd. The wind and snow outside had disappeared, and the warm sunshine shone on his broken hair. His back gradually faded away under the gaze of the chaotic chrysanthemums and spring water. Luanju, Bai Ye may be much stronger than you think. Jingle Chunchue lazily yawned, and before Luanju could ask, he leaned against the wall and fell asleep. Not long. Luhun Street, District 77. Everywhere is smoke and debris, as well as the scene after the war. The buildings were all shattered and covered in cracks. Far away from the line of sight, a group of people wearing black death armor and wielding soul-slaying swords on their waists are fighting fiercely. On the edge of Zone 77, there is a black shed, inside which there are faint waves of painful suppressed sounds. Pain. It hurts too much. In the shed, some people wear worn-out clothes and are covered in bloodstains, lying on hospital beds. The pain from their bodies makes their teeth almost shatter. A painful moan emanated from the mouth. And some of the Grim Reaper, dressed in the attire of the 4th Division, are healing their wounds with the use of reincarnation and specially made medicines. Sigh. Recently, for some unknown reason, the number of voids in the flowing Soul Street has suddenly increased, and their strength has also made significant progress. Occasionally, there are also strong figures like Daxu appearing. Even if the 13 guardians of the court were to take action, they would still suffer heavy losses. More than 10 Grim Reapers have already died and hundreds of Grim Reapers have been injured. On the side, Hu Cheyong let out a light sigh. Subsequently, she looked at the boy next to her. I saw him with a handsome face, holding a wine gourd in his hand, looking drunk. But Tiger Cheyong Yin is clear. Although Bai Ye looks unreliable, his true combat power is already comparable to that of a vice-captain. Only with his presence can this temporary hospital be guaranteed. Otherwise, if there is a great void attacking, it is difficult for them alone to protect the safety of these wounded. 009, Captain Level Daxu, Yachukas. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. However, Bai Ye drank wine on his own, his face slightly red, and his body full of alcohol. Now, the blue dyeing experiment has already begun. And the sudden increase in void on the flowing soul street was actually all death gods, but due to blue dye's void transformation experiment, it irreversibly became void. This is also the root cause of the recent chaos in Soul Street. Just what does all of this have to do with oneself? Bai Ye took a sip of wine and gently shook his head. As long as you don't disturb yourself and drink alcohol, nothing has to do with him. This time, it's just because Mao Zhihua Lai is his sister. Who the hell is that person? Dare to drink alcohol in the temporary hospital, how brave. Even Vice Captain Yong Yin didn't stop it. Some wounded soldiers. Watching Bai Ye drinking on his own, his eyes were about to burst out. You should know. Tiger Cheyong Yin has always been extremely strict and never allows anyone to drink alcohol in temporary hospitals. And this White Knight? Obviously an exception. But how old is he? It just looks like a teenager. Why is there such privilege? That's the younger brother of Lord Mao Zhihua, Bai Ye, the members of the 4th Division whispered. It's rumored that the official of the 11th Division, Ichinos Maki, fell into his hand. Everyone present took a deep breath. Unexpectedly, this is the White Knight that has recently gained fame in Jingling Court. Suddenly, one of the 3 top-tier freshmen. Mao Zhihua Lai's younger brother. Captain level free combat. Various halos flashed through their minds. Even there are rumors that this White Knight has a close relationship with the young master of the 4 Maple Courtyard family, for Maple Courtyard Yi however. At this moment, Hu Cheyong Yin was busy in the temporary hospital, while Bai Ye seemed to feel something, holding a wine gourd in his hand and squinting his eyes, looking in a certain direction outside the shed. White Knight. Busy. Hu Cheyong Yin noticed the abnormality of Bai Ye. Not waiting for her to continue asking questions. The next moment. Roar externally. A huge roar echoed through the sky. Then, a reckless spiritual pressure surged into the sky. Boom. The earth cracked and trembled wildly, and the entire shed was lifted up in an instant. What caught the eye was a big void wearing white bone armor, looking 2 floors tall with crimson eyes. At this moment, its eyes were like wild beasts, looking at the wounded below, with a hint of a ferocious smile on its lips. The wounded. Lucky enough, let me devour all of you. They can devour souls to fill the emptiness in their hearts. And the powerful Grim Reaper. Forsooth, it is an excellent supplement. No way. Hu Cheyong's eyes were full of solemnity, and he directly pulled out his soul-slaying blade. Mercedes-Benz, Frozen Cloud. Subsequently, in an instant, the soul-slaying blade in her hand turned into 3 blades, long in the middle and short on both sides, resembling a trident, charging fiercely towards Daxu in front of her. This is, 3rd class Lingwei. Captain level. Damn it. Why did such a great void come back here? Did the front team collapse? Below. Everyone was in a state of panic, their frightened eyes staring at Daxu in front of them. Here are all injured people. Or it could be that the healing team members with low combat power are unable to resist strong players at this level. And as Hu Cheyong Yin charged towards Daxu, everyone's hearts tightened and their faces tense as they watched Hu Cheyong Yin fiercely engage in battle with Daxu in mid-air. The two figures intertwined. However, the next moment, accompanied by a sudden surge of spiritual pressure and a ferocious roar from Daxu's mouth, a figure flew straight towards the rear like a broken kite. Hu Cheyong closed her eyes. Even if she is the vice-captain. But, faced with the captain-level virtual reality, it was still too forced and suppressed everywhere. But, in the next moment, there was no coldness from the ground behind. Hu Cheyong Yin felt herself leaning against a hard chest, and the sound of steady breathing sounded in her ear. There was also a smell of strong liquor coming from the tip of her nose at this point. Luhun Street, District 77. These virtual creatures are like spring shoots after rain, they can't be completely killed. A young man with a yellow mushroom head, a slender figure, and sharp teeth gently retracted his soul-slaying knife, his eyebrows slightly furrowed. In front of him, there were more than a dozen corpses lying horizontally and vertically, each with a large void. Captain, we have lost more than 10 Grim Reapers during this period. Perhaps we can ask the team leader for a rest. On the side, the other team members looked tired. Some of them still carry more or less injuries on their bodies. The fifth team is a support team. Which team is understaffed, rely on them for support. Originally, it is the responsibility of the 11th team to clear up the false payments. Just. Ghost Yen City Sword 8 has been busy with something lately. Even if there is a virtual presence on the flowing Soul Street, they have not taken action. We can only let their support team take action. Well, let me talk to the captain later. Hirako Masako, dressed in captain's feather weaving, let out a soft breath of turbid air. Originally, the rebel forces were cleared and the corpse soul realm of the Rottenwood Xiang River was sealed, but there will be unrest again. Not only did Bai Ye take action to seriously injure the officials of the 11th team, but there was also a virtual presence in the flowing Soul Street. Moreover, those nobles were also surging in the dark, vying for power and power. Think of it here. Hirako Mako felt a bit headache and looked not far away, wearing square glasses and looking diligent, as well as clearing up the empty blue Daisosuke. Although this Aizen usually treats people gently, but he sees the indifference hidden beneath her exterior, and inside I have never believed him in my heart. I don't know either. What the hell is going on with this blue dye? However, after all, what Aizen shows is just an average level of vice captain, and the soul-slaying blade is just an ordinary water-type soul-slaying blade. In Hirako Masako's heart, she still had confidence in keeping Aizen within her sight. At this moment, bomb, far away, suddenly burst out a powerful spiritual pressure. Even though they are far apart, one can still feel the sense of captain-level oppression. Everyone's pupils contract violently. That's captain-level Daxu, Yachukas level. Third-class spiritual power. It already exists at the captain level. Only team captain level combat power can fight against it. Damn it. That's the direction of the temporary hospital. Hirako Masako's heart sank, and her entire figure instantly disappeared. Only remnants were drawn in the air, charging towards Lingwei. Makeshift hospitals. They are all some injured people and members of the healing team, with little combat power at all. Mao Zhihua Lai is not here yet. The current temporary hospital is like a fish on a knife's edge, with little room for resistance. On the side, wearing square glasses, with a gentle blue dye on the corners of his mouth and a nervous and panicked expression, he closely followed behind Hirako Makoto and headed towards the direction of the temporary hospital for support. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 010, please spoil him. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. At the same time. Jingling Court. Women's Death Association, President's Office. A woman with dark long hair and two fried dough twists braids hanging on her chest looks like a gentle face. She is now buried on the desk, dealing with various things from Jinglingting. On the side. Sitting in the Four Maples courtyard at night, feeling bored. They are all members of the Women's Death Association, and Mao Zhihua Lai is the president, handling the affairs of women's death in the Jingling Court. Mao Zhihua, if Bai Ye drinks like this again, his mind will be foolish. Si Feng Yuanyi sighed helplessly. Although Bai Ye is a genius. However, drinking alcohol is really a bad habit. It's okay, I believe he can control himself, Mao Zhihua Lai chuckled lightly. Besides, the powerful death god, drinking alcohol is not harmful to his body, it can only be said to be a hobby. About the White Knight. It was also her chance encounter on the flowing Soul Street. At that time, I just felt that he was more mature than ordinary children of the same age and seemed to be hiding some secrets, so I had a sudden impulse to take him with me as my younger brother. After years of getting along, the relationship between the two is also extremely deep. Bai Ye, who has never cared about anything, will also go to support the fourth team at the request of Cheyong Yin. You should spoil him. Siphonjaiwanyi let out a light sigh and shook his head. Just. The next moment. Far away, on the flowing Soul Street, a captain-level spiritual pressure suddenly erupted. Even the strong in the Jingling Court can clearly feel the strength of the spiritual pressure. This is the spiritual pressure at the level of Yachukas. Not good, that's in the direction of 77, Lu Hun Street, and Bai Ye is also there. Mao Zhihua's pupils contracted and her figure flashed, rushing towards the direction of flowing Soul Street. And Yi was at the forefront, with the death armor on his shoulder exploding and instantly activating the instant coaxing state. He rushed towards the direction of flowing Soul Street at an imperceptible speed to the naked eye. Although Bai Ye has the level of captain in Bai-De, Ling Wei is still at the level of vice captain. How can he possibly compete against captain-level powerhouses? At the same time. Flowing Soul Street, Zone 80, with a sea urchin head that looks like a Ronin, with a scar on his face and a man with pink hair and a little girl beside him, a dull and boring expression on his face. 8,000 streams, are there really no strong ones nearby? Jianba, the strong players of Lu Hun Street have all been beaten by you once. On the side. Chao Lu Ba Qian Lu said somewhat helplessly. Gung Mu Jianba is really obsessed with combat. Now, those strong players on the flowing Soul Street, as long as they see Jianba, run away without much fighting spirit. Recently, I heard that there have been many virtual areas in Zone 77, but unfortunately they are all too weak. For so many years, only that woman has brought me a hint of joy, Gung Mujian said in a low tone, with a hint of nostalgia in his eyes. I heard that. That person is still in the Jingling Court, serving as the captain of the fourth team. It seems that I lost to myself before and lost confidence in my own strength, or is it that you're tired of fighting? Gung Mujian shook his head 8 times, and it was not very interesting to fight against someone who pulled out his claws and kept away from the battle. However, the next moment, he seemed to sense something, with a beastly cold gleam in his eyes, staring fixedly in the direction from Zone 77. This is third-class spiritual power, captain-level spiritual pressure. It seems that those illusions in Zone 77 are also useless. Gung Mujian grinned at the corners of his mouth and said, I'm leaving, 8,000 streams. Subsequently, a rough Ronin, accompanied by a little girl with pink hair, walked towards the direction of 77 district of flowing Soul Street. At this moment, 77 district, temporary hospital. A 2-story tall, looking extremely ferocious, draped in scales and covered in snow. White bone armor, the great void roared with ferocity. Below, there were numerous injured soldiers, already members of the fourth team, watching the scene on the field with fear, like a vast sea. The captain-level spiritual pressure made it difficult for them to move even if they had to. Vice-Captain Cheyong Yin has been defeated. Everyone. The heart seemed to be pinched tightly by a big hand, and breathing was somewhat difficult. In front of me, the immense pressure of this great void is too strong. This is Yachukas. Only captain-level combat power can suppress it. Even though Hu Cheyong Yin was caught by Bai Ye and did not suffer much damage, the gap between her and Yachukas was obvious. It's not even an opponent. Although, here Bai Ye is also a vice-captain level combat force. But the vice-captain is not the captain after all, this is a fundamental difference. At this point, not far away, Hu Cheyong Yin, who was knocked away and then fell into his arms, slowly opened his eyes. Turning his head, he only saw a handsome young man with broken black hair, staring at her calmly. Holding oneself with one hand and holding a wine gourd with the other, occasionally taking a sip into one's mouth. When is it now, still thinking about drinking? You go quickly and find the support of the captain-level powerhouse. This is Yachukas, only the captain can fight against it. Hu Cheyong Yin didn't care about thinking about anything else, just broke free from Bai Ye's embrace and prepared to continue charging forward, buying time for Bai Ye to escape. She didn't expect it. At this moment, Bai Ye is still only focused on drinking. Hu Cheyong Yin's chest rose and fell, watching Bai Ye ignore his words and take another sip of wine, his heart going crazy. However, Bai Ye's face remained calm as he casually pulled Hu Cheyong Yin behind him and looked at Yachukas in front of him. Void. Divided into 5 levels. Low-level void, with almost no iron sheet and no ability to dodge, can be considered the lowest level miscellaneous soldier, and ordinary death god players can easily single brush. Killian, Daxu, usually requires a vice-captain level reaper to deal with. Yachukas, medium void, can only be suppressed by captain level reaper. Vasto, superior Daxu, has a body structure close to that of a human, and his strength far exceeds that of a captain. Skrito, the superior Great Void, is a variant of Yachukas that evolved into Vastod. It did not appear in the original work, and even in the Void Circle, only 3 have appeared in the past 10,000 years. In front of me, it is Yachukas who possesses genuine and captain-level combat power. Bai Ye was carrying a wine gourd, with a lazy face and no movement in his eyes. It seemed that the wine in front of him was not as pleasant as the wine in his hand. Ding, congratulations host, drinking alcohol before the war, your swordsmanship level has broken through, and you have achieved captain-level swordsmanship.